Never change your transmission fluid, ever. And you might ask yourself, why? Why shouldn't I do this regular, routine maintenance on your vehicle? And my response to you is because I hate it, but you should totally do it. So that's what I'm doing today. And so your second question is, Chris, why are you dropping the pan without draining all the oil from it first? And that's because Chevrolet, in their infinite wisdom, never installed a drain plug into their transmission pan. So yeah, anyway, we got to remove the pan. It's about 16 bolts, and as you're unscrewing them, it slowly starts leaking everywhere because, once again, you can't drain the fluid, so it becomes this big panic fest where I'm just trying to unscrew everything as quickly as possible. Bolts are flying everywhere, and I dropped one inside of my oil catch pan, and it was very messy. It also didn't help that I was trying to record this, and I knocked the camera over, and then I kept knocking it over like 3 billion times. So with the pan being drained, we removed it, and we tracked down those other bolts, and we got to cleaning. This is the first time I'm ever doing a transmission oil change in a vehicle, so it was a pretty scary experience, but all in all, it looked like the fluid was pretty clean, no chunkies, no shinies, but the hardest part, the most mind-destroying part was ahead of me. So I'm back under my vehicle, and we're removing the oil filter from the transmission, and now there's a gasket in here, and you're going to see it in a second, and it is really jammed in there. So it's like, what do you do? Well, at first I was just trying my finger, but the video I was using as a reference for this, the guy took a hammer and a chisel and he just kind of chiseled it out. So that's what we did. It wasn't perfect. We made a little bit of a mark, but we basically crushed the gasket to the point where we could pull it out, and that worked, and there wasn't any major damage. So this right here is the new gasket, and guess what? It doesn't fit. I mean, it's supposed to, but it's just like barely big enough. So in my, big brain idea, I was like, let me take a hammer and the old filter and let me just see if I can jam it in there with it. But that didn't work, so we went back to trying to push it in with our hands, and that was not working. So we decided to get the chisel again and very gently just try to, suggest it go back inside. But that wasn't really working either. So what we ended up doing is we took a 17 millimeter socket, which was like the exact same size as it, the gasket, and then we just used that to like apply equal force pressing it down, and you know what, it worked. So we slapped the new filter in this bad boy and we are good to go. So we put the new gasket on the pan and we put it back into place with all the bolts, and then we screwed everything back in, and this was a pretty annoying process, as you can see here. So this is where stuff really started to go bad, and I don't really have any footage of it, but we filled it up. According to online sources, you need about 4 quarts when you're doing this sort of thing. I put 2 quarts in, but the thing was reading hot full, and I was like, dude, what? So I called my mechanic buddy. My mechanic buddy's like, oh, I don't really know what to do. I was like, okay, I'm just going to drive it around the block and see if it pushes the fluid around, right? So I drove around the block, and it did push the fluid around. When I went to check the dipstick again, it was reading basically bone dry, so we put 2 more quarts in it. We drove it around some more, and it was reading just a hair above hot full. So I am pretty happy with that. We're going to see if the transmission explodes.